Mrs. Cicilline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of the witnesses who have appeared today. I, too, extend my condolences to Ms. Underwood-Jacobs on the loss of her brother, and to you, Mr. Floyd, on the loss of your brother, and will continue to keep you and your family in my thoughts and prayers. I hope you recognize, Mr. Floyd, that the brutal murder of your brother has awakened the conscience of this country, and it has resulted in people all across America raising their voices and demanding an end to racial injustice, an end to police brutality, particularly against Black Americans and other communities of color, and for the creation of a safe, effective policing model for every single person in this country that will improve public safety and also the safety and effectiveness of police work. The tragedy is these are not new problems that we're experiencing. Your brother's death is only the most recent example of ugly racism and police brutality that have been a stain on the soul of this nation since our founding. I think everyone in this hearing brings their own experiences. And so before I was in politics, I was a civil rights lawyer, and most of my cases were police brutality cases. And so many of the hurdles that I faced in bringing those cases and seeking justice are addressed in the Justice and Policing Act. I then became mayor of the city of Providence and inherited a police department that was under a patterns of practice investigation by the Department of Justice. A police department that was really at war with the community. Crime was on the increase and the public had lost confidence in that community. And one of the things that was so effective in turning around that was the participation of the community and working in partnership with the police. We produced the lowest crime rate in 40 years. We became a fully accredited police department, and the police officers became integrated into the communities they served. And so one of the things that I'm really concerned about is during the Trump administration, has changed the policies about these patterns and practice investigations. It was one of the things that we were able to use to force change that the chief and the department and I as the mayor wanted. Under the Obama administration, the Justice Department opened 25 investigations into police departments, signed and enforced over a dozen consent decrees in places as diverse as Ferguson, Seattle, New Orleans, and had several open investigations. And the Trump administration then came in and really changed positions on that. And I know, Ms. Gupta, you're familiar with that. What has been the impact of the decision of the Trump administration not to pursue patterns and practice investigations? And this legislation not only strengthens the ability of DOJ to do that, but also gives that responsibility to state attorneys general. Can you speak a little bit about why that's necessary and why this is such a powerful mechanism for changing police departments and reforming police departments?
Yeah, the Trump DOJ has essentially abandoned and abdicated a mandate that was given by Congress in 1994 to investigate patterns and practices of systemic unconstitutional policing in police departments around the country. Since the administration began, there has been the opening only of one on a very tiny issue at a police department out of Springfield, Massachusetts, compared to 25 in the Obama administration and many others in Republican and Democratic administrations prior to that. And so what that has meant is that the tool of these investigations, the tool of the consent decrees, has just been lying dormant. Typically, when I oversaw the Civil Rights Division, we had mayors and police chiefs that really, in numerous instances, were actually asking the Justice Department to come in because they needed federal help in very bad situations. And so jurisdictions have not been able to rely anymore on the Justice Department to support these kinds of efforts. And I think this bill, Justice and Policing, does a lot to strengthen the Civil Rights Division's authority, giving it subpoena power, giving it resources. It also gives state attorneys general the ability to do these pattern and practices where they have already state laws that allow them to do it as well. And that's, of course, in this moment, with a Justice Department that is very disengaged from these issues, an important thing.
Thank you. And Professor Butler, very quickly, because I don't have a little time left. I'm also very interested in the accreditation model because I think that's a way to help transform the police departments all across the country quickly. And I'm wondering whether or not you have a view as to whether or not the provisions that provide for training to end racial bias and to end racial profiling, whether there are really high-quality components of an accreditation system that can really effect systematic change.
I think they're essential. We've gotten away from being tough on crime. We're now about being smart on crime. It's evidence-based practices. The evidence suggests that police can do better with appropriate training.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request. I ask unanimous consent that an article entitled, "It's Official, the Trump Administration Will Pull Back from Investigating Police Abuses" be made part of the record.
Without objection.
Another article entitled, "The Trump Administration Gave Up on Federal Oversight of Police Agencies Just as It Was Starting to Work."
Without objection.
And a final article entitled, "Trump and Session Released Cops from Federal Oversight. Now we see the results."
Without objection.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, I just want to end where I began, with deep gratitude to Mr. Floyd for the courage and the grace that you have shown and for being such an inspiration to us. And I only pray and hope that my colleagues in the Congress of the United States will have the same courage and will be inspired to do the right thing and to respond in this historic way to really change the way communities and police relate, and that will all be done to honor the life and legacy of your brother. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
Our great senators. Hi, Chuck. He used to love me when I was a Democrat, you know.